Okay, we're going to go now from retail online to the car industry. This is going to be an interesting presentation. CarUnity powered by Opel. So without further ado, please give a warm round of applause to the Director of Urban Active Europe at General Motors and Opel, Dr. Jan Wergin.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thank you. Hi. Good morning. We'll give everybody a minute. My name is Jan Wergin. I am the Managing Director of CarUnity. I also work for General Motors and Opel, and I'm in charge for Urban Active Solutions. Urban Active Solutions within GM and Opel is in charge for bringing new mobility services to you. And I will talk about this today a little bit of what we are planning and what we're doing. And I will also go into some of the advanced subjects that we're dealing in our industry right now, especially around electrification as well as autonomous, and how that all will play together someday. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on at GM right now. Because over the last couple of weeks and months, I'm sure you have heard some interesting news from GM that is somewhat, I would say, a new trend within the automotive industry. And to maybe describe what's going on, I put two quotes up here that I find quite interesting from what's basically going on inside the automotive industry. And the first one is from our boss, the CEO of General Motors, Mary Barra. And she said a while ago that we have to disrupt ourselves. And so when I think about that, and when we think about what that actually means, is that we are currently in a paradigm change within the automaker industry. And we are very used to producing cars in high volume. We are very used to selling these cars via our dealers. But we are not used to building mobility networks. We are also not used to really participating in the shared economy. We are also not used to in having these close connections that a lot of these startups that are in the mobility industry right now build to their customers, to the consumers. And so by looking at that, we need to participate as well. So one way of disrupting ourselves, we're going to build cars. We're going to build cars for a long time. But we're also going to look at what other services, besides just selling cars, can we bring to the customers? And how is that going to look like from an automaker point of view, as well as from a customer point of view? Another thing that I find very interesting is when our CEO of the Adam Opel AG said that right now we have to speed up like never before. And so thinking about that, what that means is we used to have time. We used to have 5 years to 7 years to design a car, to build a car, and to bring that car to market. Even 5 years is not a time frame that anyone accepts out there anymore. It gets shorter and shorter, and also due to the digitalization that's happening out there, we need to also get faster. We need to speed up. And I think what's happening right now, when you look at the auto shows that took place over the last half year, but if you also look at the news, every day when you open up your browser or read the blogs, it is about this. It is about how dramatically our industry is changing, how we need to basically explore new ways for the auto industry, and also how quickly we have to adapt to change. And so this is something that is dominating currently our industry. And I'm here to give you a little bit of an insight today of what that actually means for General Motors and for Opel. So what have we done? And one of the really interesting things that I really enjoyed coming also from a startup background is that we have really looked into what's happening out there in the startup scene. And we have done this for a number of years now, but up until last year, we also started to act. And so what we did is we looked at what else is out there, what other services around mobility exist that we could adapt, that we could incorporate, that we could participate in. And of course, one of the biggest things that we also want to be a part of is the idea of the shared economy. Yeah? Not of ownership, but of sharing assets. Sharing assets that cost a lot of money. Usually, the second highest asset or highest value asset that you have in your house is your car. Yeah? And then it's interesting that especially in Germany, your car is standing around most of the time. Yeah? And we'll look into that. And so what we did is we took a look at what else is out there, and we worked with companies like Tamaika, yeah, who does private car sharing. We also looked at companies like Flink. Yeah, we actually invested into Flink, who does ride sharing in Germany, yeah, also internationally. And then I'm sure you all heard about the Lyft deal, yeah, where we, as General Motors, invested 500 million in a cooperation with Lyft. Yeah. Why would we do that? What's the interest for General Motors in Lyft? And then also, we took on Sidecar. We took over Sidecar for another 11 million. Yeah? A team and a company that was one of the top 3. So if you look at the US, yeah, on really the demand economy and what's happening there right now, you used to have 3 players. You still have 3 players, more or less. You used to have Uber. Yeah? Uber, that's the number 1. The number 2 is Lyft, and the number 3 was Sidecar. And if you now look at how many of these General Motors kind of took up or cooperated with and did partnerships with, it's basically the largest 2, yeah, after Uber. And so when we looked at this, we said, OK, now we need to also transfer that to our world. Yeah? How can we, as an automaker, participate in this? And we basically launched 2 brands. We started last year in Europe, where we launched CarUnity. CarUnity is Opel's mobility brand. Yeah? We sat down and decided, how do we want to place this? How do we want to pitch this? Do we want to come up with Opel, yeah, and do an Opel brand? Or do we want to basically create a new mobility brand for Europe for Opel? And we decided to go that way. We decided that we needed something younger. We needed to be a little bit more free, yeah, of the Opel world. And we needed to really get a good understanding of our customers and build relationships with them. Yeah? Something we haven't done so much, because it's really something that dealers have done in the past. And so the same thing we did in the US, even though we did a little bit of a different take in the US, we created the Maven brand. And I'm sure you've read a lot about Maven in the last couple of weeks. They've launched car sharing in Ann Arbor, and they've launched residential car sharing in New York and other cities. So we have 2 brands now, yeah, that stand for new mobility within GM and within Opel. Yeah? And to basically give you a quick idea of what CarUnity is about, I'm going to play a short movie.
Welcome to CarUnity. CarUnity is the community for car sharing, from one person to another. With CarUnity, you can not only choose from the largest variety of cars, but you can also make money with your own vehicle. All you need is the CarUnity app that you can download easily from the App Store or from Google Play. Download it, set it up, and get started. Describe your car in the app. Let people know when it's available, whether it likes pets or long journeys, and the price? You decide. Done! It's that simple to get your first key moment. You hand over the key, and your smartphones take care of the formalities. Renting a car is even faster. In the app, you decide what you're looking for, when, and for how long. Straight away, all the cars nearby pop up on your smartphone. Choose one. For your security, there is a hotline, friendly service, and a protection package by R&V Insurance. Because sharing pays off. CarUnity, the car sharing community powered by Opel.
Yes, so that's CarUnity. Now let's take that in for a moment. What does that actually mean? We, as Opel, launched a product last year. We started in June in the Rhine-Main area, where our headquarters are. That is a car-sharing platform. It's a private car-sharing platform, or to put it even more precise, it's the Airbnb for cars. Now, why would Opel do something like this? And this is not just for Opel cars. This platform is brand agnostic. So no matter which car you have, you can participate in CarUnity and rent out your car to other people. And that's interesting because now as an OEM, as an automaker, we're not just addressing our car base, but we are starting to address other car bases. But what we're really addressing here is people. Because we are going to offer services around your car that do a number of things. First of all, you all know that using your car is usually an hour to 2 hours a day. And after that, your car more or less sits somewhere, parked somewhere. So why not utilize that car better? We all know that we have way too many cars in the cities, and that our cars are basically also blocking a lot of highways and causing a lot of congestions. And when you look at how many cars are there versus how many people sit in the car and how the car is actually utilized, that is definitely something we can change, and that we can change right now based on given with the technology we have, given with the infrastructure that we have. Of course, especially in a German market, giving your car away, renting your car to somebody else, it's a cultural challenge, because Germans have been taught or have been living with their car as part of a family member in most cases. However, that is changing. And the interesting thing, just looking at numbers over the last half year that we had in CarUnity, was that actually we thought, okay, renting cars on the platform and making your car available on the platform is probably a similar age group. It's from 20 to up to 33, 34, 35. Well, that was interesting because it wasn't true. Basically, everybody, every age group put their car on their platform, because it is a message that is very strong today due to underutilization of your cars, but also due to what cars cost. And so to offset these costs, you can rent out your car. And interestingly enough, it's not bound to particular age segments, but it's open and everybody is using it. Interestingly, though, is that actually who uses it are the people who are in their early 20s to late 20s. So exactly the kind of age group that you would expect from what the millennial and what the Generation Y is looking for. Is looking for a service and not ownership. So this is where this gets interesting for us, because now all of a sudden we are opening up new customer segments for us, younger customer segments who treat mobility in a very different way than we were taught or we were used to. And so by having a platform out there that is open to everybody, to every model, we are building networks. And networks is what is important here, because this is what the internet and the internet services do very well. And this is what we have to learn. How do we get into the network business? And so with CarUnity, we have made our first step. We have opened it up to everyone as an Opel, as an OEM. We've also made alternative ways of refinancing your car or living with your car available. And we have given customers a new way of renting cars, basically around the corner, from within communities, within people they know. And so now, why do we build networks? And I think this is what is still often confused in the press and when you read about it, is what is the end game here? Where do we want to get, especially also from an OEM point of view? Where do we as GM and Opel want to go? And so if we look at what's going on right now, we see a number of things that concern us or that will challenge us. And this is why we see these quotes. From Mary Barra and from Karl Thomas Neumann. One of the things is that, similar to the paradigm change that we have witnessed, or not personally, but that we have seen happening when it was about cars and autos, we've seen a very, very quick displacement and replacement of the horses that were available as a transportation mode to the cars. So it only took a very short amount of time to exchange basically one mode of transportation with the other. So this is a challenge, because if we have a new mode of transportation, and I'm of course hinting here at autonomous transportation, a displacement is going to happen as well, to the vehicles that we have on the streets right now, to the vehicles that we will want someday. Now the interesting thing though is, who of you in this audience would replace their car that they have right now with an fully autonomous vehicle? So we have a few people. And there's still a lot of skepticism, though. And so I wonder sometimes, this whole debate about autonomous driving, autonomous cars, Is that something that we want? Is that something that the consumer is asking for right now? Or is this something that because we can, because of the technology, because of a paradigm shift that we think is going to take place, we are going to tell you, or we are basically marketing this to you and telling you this is the next big thing. This is what we want to do. So the question is why? Yeah. And I think one of the fundamental issues that we have around transportation today is that it doesn't simply work anymore. Yeah? And we don't have the funds and the investments to change our infrastructure. Also, we will still want individual transportation. Yeah? So mass transportation is great, yeah, but it's not the ultimate solution, because at the end of the day, we still want the kind of liberty, the kind of autonomy, the kind of freedom that we have with our own car right now. So how do we bring these two together? And one of the things that we have to understand is that in order to get to where we need to be, to have absolute autonomy in transportation, but also realize this in actuality, is that we need this kind of autonomous driving of cars. Because if we don't, it's too expensive. Yeah? And we see this with Uber, we see this with other companies. Yeah? The big shift that is going to take place here is individual transportation by computers, by networks, by systems, into a service. Yeah? And if you look at cities today, the major problem that we have and why we need to think about autonomous as a tool here is that even if we electrify all the cars in the cities, and it would only take about 7 months to do so if we wanted to, yeah, we wouldn't be able to charge these cars, yeah, because nobody is going to put infrastructure in any city to charge all these electric cars that we could potentially sell by end of this year, beginning of next year. Yeah, GM is leading in mass production of electric cars. But we're not going to have this much access to power within cities where the cars sitting on the streets nowadays. So what do? And it's similar, and I always like to compare that to airports and planes, because we have a similar challenge there. Airplanes only make money when they're in the air. Yeah, that's why the entire airport system is set up to get the plane turned around as quickly as possible and up into the air again. Because the moment it sits there and parks, it's going to cost, and it has no value to anyone. And so the same thing is going to work for electric cars and for self-driving cars, autonomous cars. Yeah, they're going to be where you need them, but they're not going to stand around, because standing around is too expensive of an invest in these cars. So they have to constantly drive. Yeah, they have to drive day and night. And thereby, you can, of course, drastically reduce the fleet of autonomous cars and electric cars that you have in the city. But at the same time, yeah, you have a rotating system of where these cars can be charged, where these cars need to be in order to do optimal utilization of that vehicle. And I think, yeah, when you look at all the companies that are building networks around there, and if you look at what the CEOs are saying, yeah, they're all waiting for this to become a reality. Because the moment this becomes reality, all the business cases are going to fly and are going to work. Yeah? And so this is the answer that General Motors and Opel is putting into place. Also, if you've seen this from just last week, our invest into cruise automation. Yeah? We are investing heavily into companies that allow us to do two things: build up networks of our own, and realize electrification. This year already in the US, beginning of next year with Opel, for a mass audience, and also autonomy. Now let's look, because there are a lot of discussions going on of what this is going to look like and what is going to happen. And I see a lot of future visions out there that might all happen, but nobody really knows. So let's stay very, very focused and realistic here of what is already happening. Yeah? And electrification is a done deal. Yeah? We have mass production of these things. Even autonomous driving, I'm going to say here, is a done deal. Yeah? It's just going to take a few more years to get it really to where it needs to be in order to have the public trust, safety in mind, but it is really a done deal. And why this is a done deal, you can see already here. Yeah? Not only does General Motors, through OnStar globally, that we've rolled out last year in other markets, here in Europe as well, in Germany in particular, Yeah? We have fully connected cars. We have the largest fleet of fully connected cars out there, yeah, that can easily, at any day or form, participate in the Internet of Things. We collect, yeah, over 3.6 billion data points through OnStar. Yeah? So we know a lot of how this is used, how people are driving, where they need to go, what the mobility patterns are that we need to serve going forward. Now, this is not going to replace you wanting to drive. Yeah? This is just an alternative to us driving all the time. And we have the technology in our cars already. So you see that production readiness, mass production readiness, is very, very close to where we need to be. Yeah? If we look at our vehicles today, yeah, they can park automatically. Yeah? You don't need to do anything anymore. Yeah? Just drive up to a parking spot, you hit a button, and the car parallel parks you. Yeah? Then if you look at what else we have assistance within the car that allows you to detect collision, yeah, that allows you, that proximity to other car, warns you, even goes to brake. Yeah? If we veer over too much onto the left side, it warns us and even starts to turn the steering wheel in the other direction again. Yeah? And if you've used that once, you know what a weird feeling that is when all of a sudden your car does something that you haven't initiated. Yeah? But the technology is there, the possibilities are there, and we will be able to bring this to market, yeah, very, very quickly. Cadillac, also part of the GM group, is currently working on Super Cruise. That's going to come out next year. And basically what that means is, on highways, yeah, Super Cruise can take over. It's going to drive your car. So we see that these technologies are there. Yes, there are issues. Yes, there are challenges around cities, around situations that are unpredictable. Yeah? But the basic technology is out there that we can utilize. So what we are going to do at the end of the day, and that's kind of my key takeaway before I would like to take some questions, is, throughout the world, building up mobility networks, not everywhere, but especially in cities, allowing for individual city transportation to be electrified, to be autonomous, yeah? And then to successfully replace our fleet that is out there, yeah, with this kind of technology will allow us to free up, yeah, and this is the interesting part, just in the US, roughly $1.3 trillion, yeah, that basically we consume through the way we are using our vehicles today. Yeah, if you free that up, you can understand what market capital is also behind this approach, yeah? And why this is the way to go forward from our point of view, from an automotive point of view. And once these benefits come to the cities, yeah, and you see what it will do to your personal mobility, I think people are sold. Yeah, but I think that is also the promise that the car maker is that we are making right now to you, yeah, that we are going to make this concrete. We're going to implement use cases based on the shared economy, based on the networks that we are doing right now, that successfully will move us towards autonomous driving. Yeah, and this will be a process, and the process is something that is started now, and then we will see over the next couple of years. Technology is there, networks are being built, customers are there, and at the end of the day, this is where we're going to go. Thank you. Comments and questions? Good. Yeah, there's one.
Hi.
Hi.
How about insurance? Because this idea of sharing the car sounds great, but
Yeah.
I see a lot of problems regarding insurance, so we need some evolution there too.
Yeah. So this is actually a really important question. Thank you. So we insure on top. Yeah, and insurance is one of the key issues around the automotive industry anyhow, because also around autonomous driving. So it's really important that we get the right insurance in place. For CarUnity, we have partnered up with the R&V insurance in Germany. And basically how that works is that whenever you rent your car and whenever you have your car from somebody else, an on-top insurance is going to work. So you're not, if anything happens, if anything goes wrong, you are insured independent from your own insurance. Yeah? And therefore, hopefully no issues.
Where can you use CarUnity these days? Germany and where
We've
else?
launched in Germany, yeah, and we are going to look at other countries as well. Right now, mostly in the Rhine-Main area, yeah, where our headquarters are, and in Berlin. Yeah.
Would it be an option for a traditional car dealer to insert their car there while they are waiting on their spots to be sold? Because there are sometimes cars waiting there for months.
Yeah, it's also a very good point. So what we have done with CarUnity is we've integrated our car dealers. So you can even get very, very new cars from a car dealer on our platform. And that's exactly the point to go. Yeah? The car dealers need to be part of the journey as well, and we need to bring them in. And they have a lot of cars, they have access fleet, and by making that fleet available, you have an alternative to the private car. Yeah? And you are more in the B2C car sharing, but that's also a use case that some of you want. Yeah? I want a new car, I want the latest model, I want something special. Maybe I don't find this from private, but I can then also find that from the dealer. Yeah, good. Any other questions? One more, yeah. Oh, there are two more.
Hi. If I understand it right, the key takeover, the key handover is done by meeting personally. But that's, excuse me, a pain in the ass, in my point of view. Isn't there a more advanced way to get through a car, like Car2Go, for example, makes it with the RFID card?
Yeah, also a very good question. So Car2Go is B2C car sharing, right? And we are in the private car sharing space. And so if you want to rent your car to another private person, we did a lot of research and we talked to a lot of people, and most people would like to look the other person in the eyes first before they hand their key over. And also, of course, I need to check the validity of driver's license and all of the papers. So once, actually, that has been established and you know somebody, people then often find other ways to exchange the keys. And some people are also interested in having extra boxes installed to make this more of an easy way to rent out your car. But that's a process. It's, again, with the shared economy, it's something that needs to be learned. It's something that needs to be understood, and that's something that needs to be trusted. And so, of us being really early here, we are hoping to also get those early adopters and really launch something that is hopefully quite successful. Yeah.
I work for a bicycle agency, just to make sure I'm not the enemy, you're not the enemy, so just to set this straight. How do you think the infrastructure will adapt to that, just to make sure that the streets are still safe, but because more electrical cars still means more cars on the road, so how do you make sure to make it safe for other people on the road?
So I think it will not be an infrastructural issue, but it will be a challenge for the software, and for the sensors and for the devices. So I think at the end of the day, we cannot expect for countries to make big investments or for cities to make big investments into infrastructure. They're not going to be able to put charging stations for everybody on the street onto the street, and they're also not going to turn every city and street into a smart street. So I think where these pilots exist and where we get there, it's certainly going to be slower than us adapting our software to what's really out there and getting the problems solved with especially tricky situations. And that's the only problem we still need to solve. Everything else is solved. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.